The following video contains language that may be inappropriate for young viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, thank you so much for joining us. You are on Behind the Bars, and I'm your host, Jason Boss, and I have with me a very special guest today, and this is a brother who has done a tremendous amount of time on death row for a conviction that had no to little evidence on him. And so it is my pleasure, it is my honor, and I can't thank him enough. Charles Mamou Jr., how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay today, brother. How you doing?
I'm surviving. I'm surviving, man. I thank you so much for being on this podcast, and for everybody that has not seen the very first episodes of this is podcast number 4, and you are not going to want to miss this. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 are very exciting, and it's only going to get more exciting as we dive into the life of a very special individual. And Charles, the last thing that we talked about on these interviews is basically it was 1988, and I guess it's what you would call Breaking Bad, or going from Basketball Diaries and Basketball Dreams to living in the street, selling, hustling, grinding, doing all of that. And we ended up with one of the last things was you had gone from basically smaller powder, I don't even think you ever did small stuff, but it was from the shake to running your own gigs, and you were essentially hustling at this. And so I have this, I think you're around 20 years old, if I'm correct. If I'm not, let me know where age we're actually at, and then if we can continue on with that story and just keep rolling, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about around the right age where we left off at last time. So.
And so, coming from there, you started hustling the bigger stuff, and you decided this was the world you were in. Where did this go? What's your world look like at this time in life?
Chaos, total chaos, brother. You know, look, in the moment, you realize. Well, you don't even realize nothing. But I'm reflecting now, right? So. I use the word chaos, but at that time, you're so caught up in the streets that you think that this is the life, this is it. You know, you can go to the shopping mall, you can buy whatever you want to, you can walk into the club and have any girl you wanted to. There was times when I used to walk in the club, bro, and the DJ would just stop the music. If they saw me walking into the club, they stopped the music and announced that I was in the club. And, you know, back then, before these rappers started saying this stuff in the 2000s, I was doing this in the 90s. I was buying out the bar. I was throwing money on the dance floor, watching everybody pay for it, you know. And that was the excitement I got out of it. But my life, reflecting back, was chaos. I mean, a lot of women came through, right? Not for love, not really for intimacy, but just for them to get what they can. And I even started having more kids. You know, I started having children with different women without there being any emotional aspect towards it. It happened. You know, some of them was trying to get pregnant. because they thought there was a financial gain towards having a child by me. Yeah, you know, and even the politics in the street where there was violence that had to occur. If there's anything I can say that I did positive was I helped stop the violence. But there was also the violence that I caused and I created, right? So we used to do these little tit tripping, which is right called gang banging with Opelousas, which is a small town close to Sunset, or a city in Lafayette, or the city's named Lafayette. But Sunset was in the middle, bro. This is how unique this situation was. Sunset is in the middle of 1, 2, 3, about 4 cities, but about 10 little towns, and you might be anywhere from 2 to 20 miles apart from all these different areas. So there's going to be conflict. But when I came up, I was able to use the drugs that I had to bring down the prices, only if we all became friends. Now, it wasn't like, hey, look, I'm going to give you cheaper dope if we become cool. No, I just became the guy who was important. And if you wanted to get the cheaper price drugs so that you can inflate your own pockets, then you had to come to me. Mm-hmm. And by me doing business with this person from Opelousas, or me doing business with this person from Lafayette, or me doing business with these guys in Grancato, Leonville, Orneville, wherever, it made me say, well, we got to stop the violence, right? So there was no more drive-by. There was no more club fights. Everything was really cool. You just everybody trying to make money. Hmm.
All right. So what year was this that we were in this right now?
Well, you can say 93.
93.
Because my run came from 93 to 97 before everything unraveled.
So you were basically hustling and grinding for 4 years. Is this roughly
right? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, and then so running through 93 to 97, how much dope were you actually bringing in? What was what's a rough guess of how much were you bringing in every month or week, or what were some numbers?
Back then a kilo of cocaine in Houston was going for $15,000. If you bought 2 or more, you could get it for $13,500, somewhere around there. I got some stuff. Well, let me tell you this story here. Okay, so a couple of my baby mamas gave me their income tax check, right? Mm-hmm. And I come to Houston to do a drug deal. Mm-hmm. But the guy that I was supposed to hook up with, it never came forward. It never happened. So I'm there for the weekend, so I start spending the money, right? I'm going to the club, Turning Point, my dad's club, me and my cousins, I'm paying for everything, I'm not even thinking about that I'm blowing this money. And we go to this club called Club Reminisce off of OST in Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. And I meet a guy, my friend, my cousin named Stephanie, who used to be in the game back in the day, and she was ruthless. But she knew a guy named Jeff, and she introduced me to this guy named Jeff. Now, Jeff is not a drug dealer. What he is, he's a middleman of a major drug dealer in the state of Texas, not just the state of Houston, but the state of Texas. So I told the fool, I said, man, this is, I'm trying to buy this here, woo-woo. And he said, well, come to my house in the morning. But now at this point, I'd been using for 3 days, so I just blew $6,000, $7,000. So I tell him, look, I just want to buy 9 ounces. So he said, okay. So he gives me, well, he don't get shit, but he sold me 9 ounces for $4,500. I take the 9 ounces. I'm in a rental car. I'll never forget this here. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. But here's the thing that I had going on in Louisiana. If I came to Houston to get dope, it was already sold before I got back to Louisiana. That was one of the things I always made sure of. So as soon as I got to Louisiana, about 10 o'clock that morning, I sold those 9 for $65 real quick. Boom, just like that. So I turn right back around. I get back on the highway. Say I left with around 11. About 3 o'clock, 3:30, I was back in Houston. I pulled up to the front of the door again. Boom. Now I want a half a brick. And he like, okay. He said, you went to Louisiana? I said, man, look, man, man, you better feel the top of that hood. I said, I'm grinding right now. I ain't got time to play no games. So he called, made a phone call. He sent me the half a brick. I go back to Louisiana. Boom. I get back to Louisiana about 7, 8 o'clock. Let's say 8 o'clock. I turn right back around. I come back to Houston again. But it's midnight now. I called him. He said, man, just holler at me early in the morning. I pull up to his house early in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. And before I get to his house, he opened the door, he said, man, Chucky, man, please tell me. Now, he actually, the guy named Jeff actually knew my dad, but he says, please tell me you're not the police. And I said, I'm like, what the fuck you talking about, right? And he was like, man, I ain't never seen nobody go to Louisiana back and forth like that. I said, man, look, man, I got this stuff already sold. So when he understood what I was doing, that I wasn't in it to make a whole bunch of money. If what you sold me for $45, I could make $2,000 real quick like that, I'm going to sell it there. So the next time I came to him, he said, look, buy a kilo, and we front you a kilo. I said, all right, cool, bet. They had some guys in Rancato. They gave me half of their money. Well, guys in Louisiana trusted me so much to which they actually gave me their money to get some dope. I would use their money to go to Houston to buy extra dope. And then when I get back to Louisiana, I gave them, unbeknown, because they didn't know what the hell prices were going for in Houston. They wasn't making trips, I was. Mm-hmm. But I gave them what they paid for. So whatever they paid for, I still got half of that. Mm. That's how I was able to come up so quick. But I brought a kilo for $15.5. They funded me a kilo for $17. Mm. So when I'm coming back to Houston to get the guy his money and get some more. I called him in advance. His wife tell me, hey, Jeff said, bring the money over here, get a hotel room, and wait for it. He'll give it to you in the morning. I said, okay, cool. But when I get to Houston, there's a highway when you get to Houston, they're gonna say north and south. And for some reason, I decided to take the north exit because I wanted to go to my cousin and show her all this money that I had, right? Mm. And just to show her that, I'm back, I'm doing the damn thing, whatever, look, childhood, egotistical, whatever. But when I get to her house, because again, remember, she is the one who introduced me to this dude, Jeff. Mm-hmm. Jeff's wife and my cousin was best friends. So when I pull up to her house, I tell her, I say, yeah, man, look at all this here. She don't understand that, that these guys fronted me the dope. And I just told her, hey, I got to go to Jeff, drop off some money, pick up some dope. She said, Jeff? I said, yeah. She said, Jeff in the federal jail. I said, federal jail? She said, yeah. He got busted in Beaumont like a week before or whatever. So his wife was just trying to get that money, and I was never going to get no dope. Mm. So when she said that, I was like, nah, I just talked to his wife. So she called her wife on speakerphone, and his wife said, I never forget her, she's like, girl, what you going to do? And she said, well, I'm waiting on your cousin to bring that money that he owes Jeff, and I'm going to figure it out after I get that money. So my cousin was like, well, good luck. And when they hung up the phone, I gave my cousin like $400. I told him, look, go to Ocean, get some chicken, some sausage, and some beer. We're going to barbecue. Fuck that. Jeff ain't getting nothing. But I used the money that I had owed him, and I started re-up and I found another supplier. And so I was moving about 2 to 3 kilos a week in Lafayette, in Louisiana, in the Louisiana Southwest area.
Wow. Did Jeff ever get out? Did you ever have to deal with him?
I have no idea, bro. All I know is, you know, the game is grimy, and in that time, once I found out he was in jail, that was it.
Okay, so that's a crazy story. All right, so where do we go from here? 1997, we're gearing up into 98-ish, and it's starting to get a little. You were continuing on same rigmarole the whole way during these years.
Yeah, but I also took some hits. I took some losses because I got robbed a couple times, and one particular time, I went to Houston, and I was trying to buy drugs through a middleman that involved my cousin.
The same girl?
And, her brother. In fact, it was her brother. The guy that's involved in this case, Terrence Dotson. And so, but they're not dealers. I mean, they just know of some people. So they hooked me up with these Colombians, right? And I'll never forget this. It's like July. It's like 110 degrees outside. So we went to this African guy house, little kid. I say he was a kid because at this time I'm about 22. He might have been 20. And I spoke to the Colombian guy. I said, "Hey man, look, because they had a drug game going on called the Whip Game, and the Whip Game was drugs, but it was real weak. And the reason why people was buying into the Whip Game is because if you're a wholesale dealer, you don't care about the potency of the drug. You're just trying to sell weight at a cheaper price. So the Whip Game, you could buy a kilo of cocaine for $8,000-$9,000. You see how cheap that is? But the problem is with the Whip Game is that a lot of people didn't want that type of drugs, right? So you would be sitting on it, and that wasn't the way I moved. I needed to move fast. I was never the guy who sat on drugs. You know, if it was a little profit at all that I could make just to get back on the highway, I was going to do it. So when I come to Houston, I talk to the Colombian guy and say, "Look, man, I'm looking for some pure powder. No, I don't want the shit cooked up. I don't want no whip." He said, "Oh, yeah, I got you." So we go to the apartment, and I'm buying a whole kilo of cocaine. I want to buy more, but I said, this is my first time dealing with these people. Let me see what type of stuff they got, and then, I'll come back. And so he comes in there. I'll never forget this shit, man. This boy got a black trench coat on, like a black suit. And I thought it was odd because, again, it's 110 degrees outside, Texas heat, midsummer. And so he shows me the drugs that he had. He had a kilo of whip. As soon as he took the Ziploc bag out from under his jacket, from the trench coat, I knew it was whip. So I tell him, I say, "Hey, man, I thought we talked about this. This is not what I wanted." So he said, "Oh, you trying to jack?" You start getting real loud, and that's part of the game, man. When you're trying to disrupt an environment, you start making a lot of noise, confuse everything, whatever. I ain't got no weapon on me anyway. But I saw the shotgun that he had under his jacket, so I pulled up my hand. I showed him the money. "Nah, man, I ain't trying to jack, man. I talked to you. You told me. I told you I didn't want this. I wanted powder." He said, "Well, this is all you get." And I felt at that time that my life was in danger, so I said, "Okay, fine, fuck it." Threw him the money. He gave me drugs. Once he got him the money, he was happy. And I was pissed off, man. I was so angry, man. It reminds me, like I told you about my dad. I'm the most loyal person there is, but once you betray me, I mean, I just can't get rid of the vengeful spirit I have, right?
Mm.
So the guy says, long story short, the guy said, hey, man, now that I see you good business, he says, I normally go to Lake Charles casinos. So if you buy more than 3 kilos, I'm going to come to Lake Charles. I'm going to bring it to Louisiana for you. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, right on. I leave, go back to Louisiana. Like I said, I paid, at that time I paid $15 for that bullshit, and I might have made $13,000 off. That's it. No profit. I lost $2,000 off it. And so 2 months later passed. I forgot all about the incident, man. You know, I came back up, you know, whatever, a little bit. And as I'm cleaning up my car, I see his phone number. It was in the ashtray. And when I see it, I say, man, you know what? Because it was kind of dry. I couldn't get no drugs. Nobody could get no drugs. Sometimes it happens. You get dry trail where there was no drugs to be found. So I called the fool up. Called him on the payphone. He answered. He remembers me. And for whatever reason, I said, hey, man, I want to buy 3 kilos of cocaine. Because that was the deal he had said he would come to Louisiana with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, but since I'm going to be in Houston, I want to send you $9,000 up front, and I'm going to bring the rest. So when I said that, and I don't know why I said that, that shit just came out. So he said, you trust me? You going to send me $9,000? You know, again, this is 1996, right?
Mm-hmm.
So $9,000 was nice change. I said, yeah. And he says, well, okay. I'm going to give you call me back in 10 minutes. I'm going to give you a name. So I call him back. He gives me a female name. I go to Western Union. I wire him $9,000 in 3 different separate money transactions. I made it up. Now, in my mind, I had every big picture on Jackie. Every picture. That was the whole purpose of me calling him. Because I remember what he did to me, and I never got over it. And seeing that number just triggered every anger I ever had in my mind, right? So in my mind, I felt like, shit, I'm gonna spend these $9,000, and there's only 2 things gonna happen. Either I'm gonna get them 3 keys for $9,000, or I'm coming back in a pine box, and I ain't got to worry about this no more, right? So I sent him the $9,000. I called the Texas. At this time, Stephanie, the female cousin that introduced me to Jeff,
mm-hmm.
she got busted in Mississippi on a Greyhound bus with 100 pounds of weed. She's the only fool on the bus. So yeah, they did the weed was pungent on the bus. Everybody could smell it. Mm. So the bus driver called the cops, and they stopped in Mississippi. She go to jail. But her apartment that she had was still open. So that's why I go over there, and the very next day, I call the fool. His name was Felix. He tells me he owned a barbershop off of Bissonnette in Houston. For me to meet him there at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. It's just gonna be me and him in the barbershop, right? And but when I get to the barbershop, it's like 60 people already there, man. This dude got old folks, young folks, kids. I mean, it's full service. Mm. And but his barbershop was unique because they had a Dunkin' Donuts right there next to it that was connected to in like this mini mall. You had a coffee shop that was next door to it, so people would get their coffee, donuts, whatever, get a haircut, and he was, you know, his place of business was a barbershop and a beauty shop. So, you know, Saturday morning, everybody wants to get it done. So when I come into the barbershop, you know, I got Versace shirt on, Versace glasses on, big gold chains, Rolex watch. You know, I'm looking like an important person, but I don't have the $45,000 that, or minus the $9,000 that's needed to buy those 3 keys. But when I approached him, I'm like, hey man, we're gonna do business. He was like, no, we'll go to my house. And the reason why he decided to take me to his house is because of the $9,000 I sent him through Western Union. So he felt like if I trusted him with $9,000, then I'm a solid dude. He had no idea that was just a rule from the beginning. And we get in the car, me, him, Terrence Dawson, the guy that testified against me in my trial, lied against me in my trial, and another guy who was driving, because I didn't want to go in my car just in case, the rumor was true that it's got all kinds of bodyguards and stuff like that. So we go to his house. Boy, had a nice 2-story house in a very affluent neighborhood where there was no traffic. One of them magical neighborhoods you see on TV where people jogging down the street and the only traffic might be a brown leaf that's blowing through on the pristine pavement and shit. And so when he opens, he had a security alarm on the door. He pressed the security alarm, and this big-ass dog just jumps out at me. I take off running back to the car, because I don't like animals. He grabs the dog by the head. He's like, man, I don't know what's wrong with this dog. I said, man, I ain't going in the house with that dog in there. He said, hold up, man. He's laughing. He said, I'm going to put the dog in the backyard. He does. When he comes back, he had 2 little girls in that house. Like one of them was about the age of my daughter at the time, 6 years old, whatever. And another little girl, maybe 3 years old, and his wife. So when we go to the kitchen, the first thing I noticed was his wife was acting like she was ironing clothes, but I noticed the thing wasn't even plugged. Now, the reason why this is significant is because he was not the drug dealer. His wife was. So when I get to the kitchen area, there's an island. He's on one side of the island. He's like, hey, man. And he had 3 kilos of cocaine with the Road Runner stamp on it that shows you that came from Mexico. And he opened one, and I damn near passed out. That he was so potent, powerful, man. But I don't have the money. I'm just too take this. I start making more excuses. And, we going back and forth for about, I don't know, let's just say 2-3 minutes. He wanted to come to money and get the shit out of the way, and he was whatever. So my kind of upset. She tells us tough shit in Spanish. She goes upstairs. She comes back down with 3 more kilos of Ziploc bag. A kilo per Ziploc bag that's already cooked up, 36 ounces in each bag. And she said, look, just tell him, take this if he don't want it and get out of my house, right? But now that's 6 kilos in front of me. 3 cooked, 3 pots. So he says, all right, put the money in, man, let's do this shit. Take the shit that's cooking, And I counted to 100. In my mind, I said, when I get to 100, I'm going to draw down, But when I got to the 100, I panicked because I had never done no shit like this before. And I started counting again to another 100. I could see that he would start realizing that this shit was fishy. So I drew down. I drew my gun down. I told him to put his hands up. His wife tried to reach for the patio, for the outside door to let the dog in. I screamed at her, told her to get on the floor, because if she opened that door, I'm shooting every goddamn body, right? She gets on the floor. I had some handcuffs in my back pocket, which actually was my trademark. I used handcuffs when I wanted to seduce somebody, so I put the handcuffs on this guy, right? I take my shirt off because I had 2 shirts on. I had a T-shirt on and a polo shirt. I take the polo shirt off, and I make the shirt into like a bag, like, what's that bag, like, and I packed a kilo in the front, kilo in the back, and I stuffed the rest in the shirt. And I took their phone. So I'm running out the door. I tell this fool that brought me there, look, man, when I come out the door, have the car ready so we can get out of here.
All right, so you tell this dude to have the car running. Then what?
Right. And so when I come out, looking back, it's funny now, right? So I've told this story so many times, and people always laugh. So when I ran to the front door, right, I'm thinking, I put the handcuffs on the guy. I told everybody, just sit down until I'm gone. But he had these security locks from the inside where it was like deadbolts from the top to the bottom. And I'm trying to unlock the door so I can get up out of there. But when I looked to my left, I saw an image of somebody, and I panicked, thinking that it was somebody else in the house, like his bodyguards or something, right? But I didn't realize that the wall to my left, to the left was glass. So I was actually looking at myself, but I was in such of a panic trying to get up out of there, I scared my damn self, right? So when I finally opened the door, I come out the door. This fool, the driver, he's sitting with his foot on the steering wheel, smoking a cigarette, engine off. He's not even facing what I told him. So I took a run. I don't even know this. This was not some professional robbery or theme. I was doing this shit. I just was doing that because I was mad because it didn't know how to angle. So I took a run. And the crazy part is the fool that I handcuffed was running after me. So when we come, when you run out of his driveway and you turn to the right, there was a street, like a little strip with a substation right there in the corner. So imagine this. I'm running down the sidewalk area in an affluent neighborhood. He's running behind me with dreads in his head, handcuffed behind his back. And them white folks that was driving these little luxury cars look at us like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? The reason why he was running behind me, I didn't search him. And he had a gun on his hip that even though he was handcuffed, he was still trying to get it and turn it around to fire. And at this point, the fool that I told to get the car right, the driver, he finally got in the car and ran. Well, not ran, but he got in the car, started the engine, and he was driving towards our location. But instead of him stop the car, he kind of slowed down, opened up the back of the back seat, and with my dumb ass, I tried to jump in on a rolling car and got drugged. I still got a scar on my right shoulder and got drugged a few inches down the pavement until I rolled back in the car. And then we made our getaway. Wow. And then, the next day I get to Louisiana, nobody knew. All my cousins knew, and this is where he and I had a disagreement. All my cousin knew was that I went there to get 3 kilos of cocaine. All the driver knew was I went there to get 3 kilos of cocaine. I was very transparent that this is what's going to happen. If I'm successful, this is what I'm going to get. So the reason why me and my cousin fell out, and this was a year and a half before he even testified against me, he never sold drugs before. So I tell him, I said, look, because I told him, I said, if I'm successful, you're going to get half for hooking it up, because it was actually him who introduced me to the guy. So I tell him, I said, look, man, how are you going to sell this kilo of cocaine? He was like, look. He said, I don't know. He just said it for me. I said, no, I'm not selling it for you. I said, you're either going to come to Louisiana and sell it for yourself, or I give you $5,000 cash for it right now. He took the money, right? So, and that's the last time he and I ever did any business. I go back to Louisiana. I got 5.5 kilos of cocaine. This is when my life started getting bigger than what it really was, because I'm riding around in limos on a Monday. I was throwing money left and right, walking around with $95 grand in my pocket. She got crazy back then.
Wow. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still.
Okay.
Things got rough and rugged, but here was the downside with that, because now I became a target. And what I mean by that is because nobody knew this story. Nobody knew how I got it. They just saw me because the first kilo of cocaine I sold to a guy who was never in the game in Lafayette. but I just needed some seed money right then and there. So I told him a kilo of cocaine for $10,000, which is unheard of. You can't get a kilo of cocaine if you went to El Salvador or Colombia. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna pay that either.
Mm.
So he jumped on that, but I made it seem like I had whatever he wanted, an unlimited amount for 10 grand, pure cocaine, and that wasn't true. But he spread the word, and just like before the internet come, word of mouth is faster than the internet, and so everybody thought that I really, really had a connection that nobody could get. So I became a target. My house got burglarized a couple of times. One time, my child's mother, Sidonia, came home, and as she's walking in through the front door, 3 masked men ran out the back door. And I can't tell you how that situation could have went totally different. You know what I mean? It could have went horribly wrong. But it didn't. But I'm just saying, the feds got on my case then, right? Because word of mouth. If you so crazy to man, well, the feds gonna start looking out for you now, right? So one day Sidonia called me and told me our house had got burglarized again right before Christmas. They took all the presents, took all the clothes, all the jewelry, the money we had hidden. They found all that. So I'm speeding because I just bought a brand new Cadillac. I'm speeding from like 100-something, you know, and state trooper get behind me. But he couldn't catch me until I didn't even notice. I'm flying so fast down the highway, I didn't even notice he was on my tail until I exited on the exit. I came to the stop. I reached in the back seat to get Crown Royal bottle that I had because I wanted to calm my nerves down. So as I'm pouring me a drink, that's when I seen the flashing light. His name was Trooper Bear. He testified against me too, and saying I was speeding and I was a danger and all this old crazy stuff. But when I get out, he said, I told him I was speeding. Look, man, my house got burglarized. Woo, woo, woo. He said, you got any drugs in the car? I did not have any drugs in the car. I had a weapon in the car, though, but I had hidden the gun on my hip, and I had $16,000 cash on me. So he hit the car. He said, man, you know, it's Christmas time. I'm not going to take you in. He ran. Now, what he did was, this is where everything got crazy. Because procedurally, he had to call my name in. So he took my driver's license, and when he called my name in, Charles Mamou, my name was real known in that area. So it alerted the drug task force team without Trooper Edgar knowing. Because when he comes back, he sees the money. He got all my money on the hood. He's counting the money, $16,000. And this is how long he and I was out there. But the record truck came. So he said, I tell you what, man, it was a holiday. He said, if I go talk to that record truck driver and offer him a few, a couple of $100, will you be willing to pay that and we just go our separate ways? I said, yeah. Yes, you know. But before he could go talk to the record guy, he come police from the left, from the right, from the highway, from I don't know where they came from, and they saw the situation. So Trooper Adrian tried to downplay it and say, well, yeah, you know, this is Charles Mamou, notorious drug dealer. Yeah. I called him on the highway with all his money, $16,000, and he was speeding. Woo. So they searched me down again, and when the drug task force searched me, they found the gun. I was on probation. I shouldn't have had no gun on me. And that's how I go to jail. And hold on one second.
Yep.
How you doing? Now. Yeah, so Sorry about that. But, so, you see that?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, so they take me to jail. So when I get to jail, they put a hold on me because I was on probation and I'm a felony with a firearm. And in Louisiana, that's a federal offense. And I'm sitting there, man, I'm like, man, I got to get out of here, you know. So I called my attorney, who was actually a friend of mine, who was also an assistant prosecutor in Lafayette. I called him. I told him, I said, hey, man, look, this is what happened. He said, well, I think I can find a judge. This just goes to show you the corruption in Louisiana. He said, I think I can find a judge that will get you out of that hole, what it's going to cost you. And I said, okay, how much is it going to cost? He said, how much money you got left on you? I said, how much money I got left on me? I said, I got $16,000. So when I went to the county jail, all I had was $9,000. That hard motherfucker, two baby who's going to testify against it, took my money, man. So when they can't give me the receipt of all my possessions, I had $9,000 left and like 30 cents, something like that. So I tell John Wayne Milton, that's the attorney name. I tell John Wayne Milton, I say, hey, I got $9,000. That's what they say. I said, I had 16. I don't know what the hell happened. He said, it's going to cost you $9,000 to get out of there. I said, fine, take it. And I walked up out of there after the police officer said I was never getting out again. I walked out of that county jail in Lafayette, Perry County, 3 hours later.
Wow. Wow. Well, that is an amazing story. So this is, you were like 23, and this is 96, right? Somewhere around there? Is that roughly about that?
Yeah. 22.
22. Okay. Okay, well, I think this is a good cutoff because I think I'm going to put both the podcasts together on this, and this will be number 4. So I think let's give you the last minutes on this. You've lived a vivacious life. You were the man. You were out there blinging. You were out there doing all this stuff. Now, there's still a lot of people out there that do things just like this, right? There's still a lot of hustlers, a lot of players. Right. What advice? What advice would you give to these guys to avoid the troubles that you have gotten yourself into, or what are the final words that you will leave this podcast with?
When I got arrested, I was 24 years old. I've done 26 years incarcerated. I've always been a numbers guy, right? So here's some numbers I want to listen to. I spent more time incarcerated than I did once I exit the womb, my mother's womb. It just don't add up. If we take from the time I was born to the age of 16, it's when I left my mom's house and my own home. And then from the age of 16 to 23, because the case happened when I turned 24, we're talking about 7 years. So within 7 year period, I had a financial independency. The numbers don't add up, bro. So any man, woman, and I know, look, it's hard to convince somebody because everybody, right? Yeah, I never met a criminal who ever thought he was going to get caught. I never met a criminal who felt like their way isn't the best way. So I can never convince anybody who's closed their mental doors to what I'm trying to express. The only thing I can do is, if you're a numbers person like I am, then hearing my story, the numbers don't add up. Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, and now you got some people, they don't mind. Texas is a predicament of circumstance. And what I mean by that is, had I caught this case in California, I would have been home a long time ago. I caught this case in New York, probably wouldn't even have been a case. If I caught this case in Louisiana, I would have never did a day in jail. Had I caught this case in anywhere else in America, this would be a different story that I'm projecting to you. But I caught this case in Texas, and I can tell you, that this is the worst inhumane environment that you can ever experience, because yes, every state has a prison, but most prisons, most states have humanity involved. So I could touch, if I was in another state, I could touch my family members, I could touch my loved ones, I could be a part of a society where I could learn how to rehabilitate and grow. That's not what's happening here, you know what I mean? So that's what I would like to tell everybody out there.
Beautiful.
If you care.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Charles Mamou Jr. It has been a pleasure. It has been an honor for everybody that's out there. Guys, everything is in the description below. There's various ways that you guys can contact Charles. I'm sure he would love to hear from you guys, and I'm sure he would reply back to you. And my brother, until next time, this is Behind the Bars.
All right, brother. Love you, man. Take care.
Take care, bro.